Thanks for tuning in to the Mission Matters podcast, where we feature successful, mission-driven leaders committed to creating a positive change in the world. Our mission with this channel is to inspire other leaders by providing industry insights, new ideas, and inspiring stories from the pros.
All right, good day to you all. I'm Paul Fyth, host of the show where I talk with leaders heading up mission-focused organizations, always leading from the heart, inspiring others, and making a difference in their community. And I'm very excited about today's guest. I'll get to that in just a second. Today's episode is sponsored by Paul Gregory Media, a B Corporation. For more information on what a B Corporation is, I'll give you a hint. Benefit is what the name or what the letter B stands for. You can find out more about that at paulgregorymedia.com. Dorri McWhorter, she is the president and CEO of the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago. Super excited because you cannot talk to her for 5 minutes and not get fired up about something that she's doing. Welcome, Dorri.
Thank you, Paul. So happy to be here.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read a little blurb of your bio. You're a socially conscious international business leader, and you've chosen our little Chicago town to settle into the YMCA. And I love what you say here, choosing to lead with joy and dedication to improving the world by leveraging experience from your corporate and social change sectors. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more. I also want to let our listeners know that you're a 2019 inductee of the Chicago Innovation Hall of Fame. So that's pretty cool, right? And then also named to the inaugural list of the Blue Network, which is comprised of Chicago's tech and innovation leaders. So congratulations on those two feathers in your cap.
Oh, thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you just give our listeners a little taste of what you've been doing the last 10, 20 years and what led you to the president and CEO position at the YMCA?
Sure. So just by background, I have to say I started my career in public accounting, which I'm very actually proud of that because I started with Arthur Andersen and had just a great opportunity at Arthur Andersen in Chicago at the time and switched into consulting while I was with Andersen. And why I think that that's important is just because they taught me how to think, right? So, and I've been able to see that throughout my career. So started with Arthur Andersen, went on to Booz Allen Hamilton, and then from there actually went to Crowe Horwath and did a little stint in industry as well, leading up internal audit function for a Fortune 500 company at the time. And my last corporate gig, I was a partner at Crowe in their risk consulting practice. And so, but to your point as to why we're here today, while I was at Crowe, I was also on the board of the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago at the time, leading the audit committee. And we had a CEO transition. And one of the things, I had been a longer tenured board member. And at that time, one of the recruiting firm continued to ask me what I think we needed in our next leader. And I just got so obsessed with like, well, we need to do this and we need to do this and we need to do that. And finally I was like, I want to do that. And so I was fortunate that I threw my name in the hat and they selected me to be the CEO. So I was with the YMCA Metropolitan Chicago for 8 years, got to do a lot of very interesting things that would really ingrained for me the approach that I like to take to this work from a impact perspective. And then 2.5 years ago, joined the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago, really as they were coming out of COVID, thought that there would be great opportunities to support that work too. So I say that long story about my background because I spent 20 plus years in public accounting and consulting, and then had the great opportunity to move into the impact sector, mostly because at the time with the YMCA being on the board, I wanted to see this work continued, and it just didn't reconcile for me that you could do such great work, but still the organization was in a decline. And I was like, why is that possible? And so I was able to come in with the thinking that I have from a business perspective and say, hey, we need a better business model. And actually, that's what we're seeing here at the YMCA now, too.
That is almost, it's almost like the battle cry of a nonprofit, right? Where you're doing such good work, but why are we failing in terms of a business sense? And I also love what you just said about in the consulting world, it taught you how to think. Right. Strategic thinking is the bedrock of growth and scaling and doing anything successfully, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I still lead with that because, I always say this, and this is something that I think we forget as nonprofits. We exist in the same marketplace as other businesses. So why do we think we need to do things differently? We can create impact, but we need to do that in a way that recognizes that the same reasons that businesses are successful are the same reasons we're going to be successful. It's just that, to your point, the missions are different. And so
Yeah.
my goal is to make sure that, impact organizations actually can create the impact. And the only way I know how to do that is through how you would operate a business. I will say, though, that, I really feel that I have this perspective too, that I say that all businesses are social enterprises, whether they know it or not, because some of us, to me, focus on, as nonprofits, we focus on creating an impact. And most businesses, of course, focus on creating a profit. But at the same time, there's always an impact, whether they know it or not. And so my goal is to hopefully see more businesses, whether they're nonprofits or for profits, understand the impact that they're having on society and lean into that more.
I love that. I love that because you're right. For-profit businesses do have an impact, whether they realize it or not, or whether they focus on it or not, right?
And that's what it is, right? Whether they intentionally focus on it or not, because they're creating it. It's just whether it's how intentional it is. Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned a buzzword that I love to hear when nonprofits, because not a lot of nonprofits know this, and that's social enterprise.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that and how it affects or how it's integrated into your business model.
Sure. So many people, what I'm finding is that there's different organizations or different people that define it in different ways. So the way I define it is that you can create impact while also creating value. So for me, social impact or social enterprise is about creating value while you do business. And so whether you're a nonprofit or not, from a tax status perspective, it's pretty agnostic, but I know some people think about social enterprise as creating profit and then using that profit to then go do good. And I call that a social venture. But that's just my own vernacular. But from a social enterprise perspective, it really is about how do you think about the entire value chain of a business to create greater impact.
Wow. So we have another vocabulary word here, social venture. Okay. So that's interesting. So looking at a mission and then figuring out how to fund it. And if you're just focused on the funding, maybe that's your definition of a social venture versus a holistic approach.
Absolutely. Around how you do both, right? Because when you hear people talk about some social ventures, they're like, well, I got to create profit here and then I can use that profit to go do good. And my perspective is that it's actually a social enterprise is a very holistic approach to think about how you're creating impact and value creation at the same time. It's not separate to me. To me, the value creation is the impact, right? Or part of the impact. So that's how I think about it.
Wow. And you've now, this the organization that you're heading up right now is over 100 years old, right? How old?
Yeah, it's 165 years old.
165 years old.
Doesn't look great?
And you're steering this ship. And I got to wonder, it can't be doing the same things and expecting different results, right? So there's got to be some leadership challenges there.
No, absolutely. And when you think about it, so an organization like the YMCA of Metropolitan Chicago, most YMCAs are known for now in current times, known for being, as most folks like to say, swim and gym. And what we've learned is that the Y is so much more than that. It really is, in many cases, the anchor of that community. And so what we've looked to do is say, how can we own that and not just let that be one of those unintended byproducts of the work that we do. And so we've really gone through this. We're going through this transformation as I speak to go from this thinking about the YMCA as only a swim and gym, which, by the way, has great value in communities, but really own our position as a community hub. And so that's what we're focused on. So we're now calling our membership centers community hubs and have really redesigned and restructured how we're going to deliver services through these hubs.
Yeah. And people have heard me say, we used to visit the digital world before COVID. Now we kind of live there.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a digital or virtual component to what you're doing too. And have you embraced any of that?
Oh, absolutely. So the benefit of the YMCA is that, as I mentioned, as we are a community hub, that does has the connotation of being rooted in physical existence, right? Which is great, right? We need the people in their embodied state to be in our physical places. But we also know that there is a complement to that in the virtual world. So one of the things that we're doing, for example, is that when you come to our fitness services, that, part of our services as we think about fitness, sports, and aquatics, you have to do that physically, right? We have not yet figured out how to teach people how to swim virtually. So we will still be doing that at the Y. But at the same time, we know that the world has changed and there needs to be this virtual augmentation to our work. And so we're so excited that we're partnering with Peloton, as folks know that they have amazing physical exercise content. And so we're going to be able to offer their content virtually. Therefore, we could still leverage our spaces. So yes, have their equipment in our spaces, and at the same time, our members have access to their app so that they can also do those exercises and do their own work at home. So we thought when I think about from a social enterprise perspective, it'd take us decades to catch up with the content that Peloton already has. And so why not partner with someone who can help us leapfrog what we need to offer in the virtual space? And so what I get excited about too is that it really gives us a best in class opportunity too. The Y is great in our physical locations, but now we have a partner that's really great as well in the virtual world. And so we can combine the both.
Best in class. I mean, if you're going to partner with anybody in that space, Peloton is the king, right? They're the largest market share, and they have
absolutely.
I mean, if you're a trainer, right, and you want to work for a virtual company, you're going to choose if you're good, you're going to work for Peloton. So, man,
absolutely. And the benefit of our partnership too is that we can actually have our trainers run Peloton classes. So they can use their content to run full classes. So the people get the benefit of having someone right by their side, physically helping them, but at the same time, doing an amazing class with a Peloton instructor. So to me, it's literally the best of both worlds. And we have an opportunity to offer that to our folks, recognizing that the world has changed, particularly after COVID, that we just can't have one or the other from a solution perspective, that we really do need both.
Right. And you call yourselves like a community center, right?
A community hub.
Or a community hub. So in addition to the virtual aspect with the Peloton, with even live instructors right there by their side, what other community type services do you provide besides the typical, I think what everybody knows, swim, gym?
Sure. Well, a couple things. So when you look at our sort of portfolio of services, one of the things that we offer, as well as our fitness and sports and aquatic services, we also have our learning services. So from a childcare perspective, from out of school time perspective, so we have lots of activities for children and youth in our space. But we also have, in addition to our community hub, within our community hubs, we also have our computer labs in our centers too, so that folks can come. We have a partnership with Comcast Xfinity, and we're able to create these powered zones. So within our sites, people can come bring their computers and they can work. And we have like good Wi-Fi there, as well as we have
so important, right?
Yeah, it's just so important, right? We have boosted Wi-Fi, as well as our computer labs where people can learn new skills. One of the things that I love to go into our labs and to see older adults there that are learning new computer skills. And so what we want to do is we really want to be that place for the entire family. So whether you're a child, a parent, a grandparent, whatever that family structure is, there's something for you at the Y. And so we want to make sure that if a family comes in, that they can do what works best for them. So we've had families bring their children in for certain activities or certain programs, but then they go, the parents perhaps may go, around our walking track, or go take a swim lesson, or have someone go hang out in our computer lab. So we want to be what we call that second space, so people can come in and just participate whatever way they want.
Well, it also seems like, Dorri, you're taking this holistic approach in business and applying it to your community base. Taking care of the whole family.
Exactly.
Which I love. That's a great part of the mission, I guess.
Yes.
And you have how many? Because you're growing right now. How many locations do you have?
So we have 25 sites. So we have 14 of those are community hubs, and then we also have 5 camps. So we have the resident camps and overnight camps and family camps that we have. So again, we have opportunity for you to send your kids for a week or two at our camps, but you can also go with the whole family too. We have 2 overnight camps, one in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, and one in Michigan. Wow. Yeah. So we really are one-stop shopping, Paul.
Yeah, really. I didn't realize there was that many locations.
Yeah. And then we have our daycare site. We have daycare sites too, which is included in that as well.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to switch gears just for a second
Okay.
because you were involved in a movie that I saw the preview and was blown away. And it actually kind of talks about the social enterprise, right? And the model. And I'm going to preface it by saying this, and it could be too literal, so forgive me and correct me even if I'm wrong. But a lot of donors, when they donate to nonprofits, they want as much of that donation to go to the mission as possible. But what's often ignored is that mission cannot be accomplished without the operations and without the people. And this movie kind of shed a little bit of light on that, I thought, at least to me, the way I interpreted it. And you were involved in this story. So you're like now you're a movie star too. So you can add that to your resume. Tell us about this experience and this movie.
Sure. So the movie is Uncharitable, and it's based on the book by Dan Pallotta, also named Uncharitable, which he wrote the book after he had a very successful TED Talk about how we think about charities are all wrong. And so he was good friends with Stephen Gyllenhaal. And so Stephen Gyllenhaal directed this incredible movie documentary. And so what effectively it says to your point, Paul, is that, with charities, we are very specific about how we tell them to use their dollars. I always say that, when I go buy a bag of M&Ms, I don't say, only spend it on yellow number 5, right? But with charities, we get that very specific directives about how we use the resources and don't necessarily give the leaders like myself an opportunity to say, this is the resource. How do I best make use of this resource to truly impact the mission? And so that's what the movie focus on, is that this really is just about mindset, because these aren't things that the tax status prohibit you from doing. It's really about the
Sure.
mindset. And so the movie focused on sort of 5 levers that really need to be reconsidered in the sector if we think we can have the greatest impact possible. So to your point about overhead, right, and how we use those resources and apply those resources to compensation, because again, we expect nonprofit workers to leverage a very, very, very charity oriented mindset relative to compensation. Marketing, we think that, all the marketing and should be pro bono. And we know that doesn't optimize the reach for any of those marketing efforts if we do receive them pro bono. Then you have just capital, period, right? The ability
Right.
to access different types of capital because of many of the restrictions that come with it. Then there's the opportunity to take risks. We know that businesses get to take risks all the time, and that's how they figure out what works or doesn't work. But with nonprofits, we're expected. I always say that, we have we have no room, no tolerance for error, right? In the nonprofit space, that if you take a risk, that
Boards tend to frown on that.
it's frowned upon, which is, as we know, from an innovation perspective, you can't get innovation without taking risk, right? And then the last piece that the movie touches on is that even having the runway to do so. I think about, what was it, Amazon 6 years or so without turning a profit. But it was okay because it was part of growing the business and getting to where you need to be. But that's unacceptable in nonprofit world. Like, you have to at least break even, or, folks are going to call for removal of that leadership, or shuttering the organization. And so it's just that, we've created sort of a separate set of rules for nonprofits, which, again, if we're all in the same sort of capitalistic marketplace, why would we? If we expect the nonprofits to be successful in fulfilling their mission and creating the impact that they're intending to do, you have to sort of play by the same rules. But we've really hampered nonprofits' ability to really lean into what they know they could do well.
Right. And this from a strategic thinker, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this
Those are
unbelievable.
exactly the things you need to do, right? Like we need good
And we're not
people.
reinventing the wheel either, right? Because business does this
No,
all the time.
no, they do it all the time. And so, but unfortunately, the nature of nonprofits, many of these practices are frowned upon because, we could, in the movie toys with the reasons why this is the case, but it really is just human beings and their perspectives, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm really just a proponent of, I've watched, being in the consulting space, I've watched businesses, have these same levers so that they could be successful. And I come in this space, I was like, what are we doing here? We're trying to, create greater societal value, and we're really limited in how we can do that. So that's one of the things I really lean into, is really exploring the full range of options for us to create as much impact as possible.
and the success shows because of that. And that's a really good nugget for, I think, anybody listening in a leadership position to take away from this, is that change your mindset from this notion that because you're a nonprofit, you can't utilize the same levers that any other business
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. And we really, and to me, it's about nonprofits really owning the value that they create and then figuring out the right way to monetize that value, right? And of course, we have, IRS rules and things like that, but none of them really prohibit us to the degree that people act like they do from just thinking differently.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have been a joy to talk with, Dorri. I always learn something from you, just even in a 5-minute conversation or our initial conversation. You were a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for taking your time today to talk with us. Any parting thoughts maybe for a leader that's just maybe starting out or has been stuck in their role from you?
Well, first of all, thank you, Paul, for having me. This has been so fun. For me, it really is about understand your value and your worth, and know that your pun intended, your mission matters, right? And so, how does that play in the broader marketplace? We have to be the ones to bring that to bear. No one's going to do it for us. And
Right.
so, the more we lean into how we, look at, a good friend of yours and mine, we always talk about how much of us, the way we look at the world in nonprofit land is that we say, oh, this is the bucket of resources that we have. How do we make use of these resources? That's not what we're doing here. We need to say, what is it that we're trying to accomplish? And let's align the resources to accomplish that. So let's go get different resources and not just think that we're limited by what we have in front of us, because we're, again, in the same market rich opportunity set that other businesses have. We just need to know how to go after them.
Right. Why limit yourself? Right.
Exactly.
No need. Well, thank
Exactly.
you so much again. Appreciate your time. And I think we need a follow-up podcast
Well, happy to.
because I don't think we've scratched the surface on some things.
Yes, happy to.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching. Till next time.
Thanks for listening to the Mission Matters podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.